What's going on, Fortnite fans? My name's Luke-thenotable, and in this video, we'll be dropping into Fatal Fields 100 times. What better way to learn a location than constant practice and dropping into Fatal Fields 100 times? I tried to do just that. Also, Fatal Fields has changed a bit with the start of Season 6, so I thought it was a perfect time to drop here 100 times. Throughout these 100 drops, I played a lot of interesting, funny, and downright professional games. So before this intro gets too fatal, let's just get in to game number 1. Game number 1 was by no means my first drop into Fatal Fields. Though this drop was a little bit different, there was a massive chunk of Loot Lake floating nearby. We'll be fine. I dropped into the Farmhouse. It's a fairly consistent house in Fatal Fields. It can spawn up to 2 chests, and there's tons of ground loot. Just a little bit south of the Farmhouse are these 2 barns, which also can have some loot. Every barn and structure in Fatal Fields has some sort of loot in it, and some with some chests. Don't worry, before this is all over, I'll show you where all of those chests hide. All of these games were recorded in Fortnite Season 6, the spookiest season. Jokes aside, in Season 6, we got these corruptions outside some of the named locations, and they were a huge help. I made it all the way to Paradise Palms, but didn't really find anything to upgrade my loot. I was attacked by a calamity on the plateau south of Retail Row. Dropping Paradise 100 times really taught me how to fight on this thing. After that, I didn't have to fight anyone else until I got to a very small circle with 2 people left. I was pretty low on materials, and the storm wasn't exactly in my favor, and with all that against me, I lost. But I never win Game 1, so it's fine. Game 2, I dropped into the big red barn in Fatal Fields. Another pretty consistent drop. I was attacked by a calamity with obviously no clear plan. You may have noticed the cornfields in Fatal Fields. They're great for hiding in, but sometimes they'll give you this glitch which makes you very easy to see and kill. Editing this, I realized the glitch might be a little bit hard to see. It makes it very easy for you to track players. Even in the later recordings, this glitch was still happening. And for that reason, I don't do a lot of traveling through the cornfield. Anyway, this game had a pretty similar circle to the last game. And I found a llama. I have kids! No! I looted Paradise Palms and only had to kill one other player that tried to kill me. Then, using my jump pad, I was able to shoot towards the final safe circle. I had a massive amount of materials and the only other player in the game had to push towards me. So this time, with the odds in my favor, I won the game without even having to take a shot. Really happy how that one turned out. It's nice getting a win early on. Game 3. Well, we should probably talk about something real quick. Compared to adjacent locations, Fatal Fields has a lower amount of possible chest spawns. Paradise Palms and Lucky Landing, the neighbors to Fatal Fields, can both spawn more chests. In fact, most of the main locations in Fortnite spawn more chests than Fatal Fields. So when you drop here, sometimes you can be at a loot disadvantage. That doesn't mean Fatal Fields is all bad though. There's a ton of aspects of Fatal Fields that I absolutely love. On every side of Fatal Fields, there's these small forests which have tons of wood. Traditionally, I've come to these forests from other named locations, but when you drop directly into Fatal Fields, getting wood is so much easier. Sure, you don't have a ton of loot, but having a lot of wood is just as good. There's also 2 stone mines around Fatal Fields, which allow you to stock up on stone as well. And at least at this time, the corruptions and ghosty gems allowed you to get far away from Fatal Fields when you needed to. In this point in the season, not a lot of people knew how to use the ghosty gems. They're not the best offensive tool. I didn't have many weapons, but the ones I did have were pretty good. In the end, there were 3 people left in the final circle. I ran out of mats, then died. 3rd place isn't too bad. I got a lot of XP for that. Game 4, I dropped into the farmhouse and destroyed everything in the entire house to see what the loot would look like. And in this particular game, from looting the farmhouse, I got some pretty good weapons, full health, and a decent amount of mats. While looting the mine, I found a scarecrow and dealt with him. Also, that annoying black leg glitch was happening. The legs on this player are somehow rendering to be massive and black. I have no idea how. You think it might help, but it's actually very hard to shoot him. The glitch made him hard to see, so he got some shots in, but I ultimately won the fight. We made a lot of noise and attracted some other players while the storm overtook us. Good thing I had this impulse grenade. I got out of there as fast as I could, but found another player with the leg glitch. This player's thick thighs almost ended up being my demise, but I still won. One of the more fatal elements of Fatal Fields is its proximity to hot locations like Salty Springs and Retail Row. In this game, I had to do a ton of fighting, primarily because I had to push into these locations. And in the lands where I first started this series, Cletus sprinkled my ashes. Game 5 is another one of those games where I dropped in and didn't get that great of loot from Fatal Fields. So I just traveled to a location with better loot, then killed the people there! Guys, seriously, just build a little bit. Even the tiniest bit of building will help. Again, didn't have anything too strong in this game, so like a true default, I hid in a house. And in the final circle, with no materials and a blue pump, I sent this man to the sky. Alright, game 6, I'll go to the floating island in the sky. It wasn't a terrible strategy at the time to jump onto the floating island, grab some loot, and then jump down back to Fatal. I was able to land on top of the farmhouse with already good loot. Thanks, island! So by the time I left Fatal Fields, I had everything I needed. The final circle was sizing up to be inside of Tilted Towers. I was ready for a fight. I was definitely going to win this one. It looked like I had everything I needed until I froze myself. No, stop! Like I said, definitely would have won it. Game 7, how about a little pro tip for dropping into the red barn? When you drop in, knock out this specific piece of roof to drop into the one place where a chest will spawn in the red barn. But in this game, there wasn't one. Sad. Nothing really interesting happened. Then we got to Fail. There's a default there, but he was pretty easy to kill. I mean, look at that. I was doing pretty well with my sawed-off shotgun, though generally I do prefer a blue pump or heavy over the sawed-offs. That's because most of the time I forget to reload my sawed-off shotgun, and in this game, it got me killed. Game 8 was a pretty similar story, dropped into Fatal Fields without incident. No one crossed my path until I found this guy outside Paradise Palms with 10 people left. Again, by dropping Fatal Fields, I had successfully made it to the end game, but the end game is where you're gonna fight your strongest competitors. One slip-up, and you could be dead. I know I said that Fatal's good in the end game, but Game 9 was a pretty hot bust. You can see all these other players dropping into the surrounding area. In Ghost Mode, I was able to find a single gun, but that didn't help me to survive. Game 10, I had a fairly successful loot harvest, but even with my good loot, in this particular game, the safe circle was very far north. This meant I had to pass through Retail Road, and I died. Game 11, I dropped in with some of my real-life friends. Except Playa Sports. I don't know him. It got really fatal. But Game 12, we hopped right back in. There's already a pretty low amount of loot in Fatal Fields, so dropping into squads mode just makes it worse. That's okay, I'm gonna turn these cabbages into kills. As a squad, we used a rift to go to get towards the new safe circle. The plan was to go to the hotel in Paradise Palms, but as soon as we got to it, there were other players there. Only 2 of our squad ended up living, but the game was almost over. We still had a chance. We rode a pretty clutch rift that put us at the top of this mountain, and once there, it was easy for us to rain down bullets on our opponents, and eventually win. Game 13, you know we were going for that back-to-back win. I died pretty early, but my wife, the Hayman, was able to survive. Torres was tragically killed by the storm, and Jake ain't that good. Though I will say, second place ain't that bad. Game 14 was recorded on Skull Trooper Day. Ironically, I didn't run into any other Skull Troopers, just some Newbertons outside the factory. Let's skip ahead a bit. This is a 1v1 in the final circle, right outside of Tilted Towers. I had very low health, I had no materials, and the storm was moving towards me. And for all of those reasons, I didn't win. Game 15, I'm gonna show you one of my favorite drops when I go into Fatal Fields. Drop onto the long barn to the north, knock in this wall, and you'll get a chest. Then you'll want to check all the stalls. Sometimes you can find some pretty good guns in there. And then in this back room, there's also a chest. Not done yet. If you're lucky, to the east, you might also find a chest hidden under this bridge. And then it's just perfect access to that northern forest where you can get a ton of wood. Everything you need to fight, right in one location. I love dropping at the long barns. Anyway, back to the game. Obviously, there were a lot of people left for this final circle. Coming from Fatal Fields, obviously I had a ton of materials, but while going for the heal, I should have built a wall in front of me. Well, I guess at the end of the day, at least no one will get my loot. Game 16 got real fatal, real fast. Game 17, I trapped an unarmed Omega in the long barn. He set up a trap thinking I would run in, but I didn't. In Game 17, that was pretty much the only interesting thing to happen until I made it to the end. My guns were pretty good, but my mats were pretty low, and the other guy had the high ground. Not that many players drop into Fatal Fields, especially if the bus isn't right overhead. So most of these games are like Game 18, where I don't see anyone and leave Fatal Fields with some okay loot. It was all quiet until Dusty Divot, of course. I was able to get the first shot on this guy and spray him down with my P90. But with his heavy shotgun, he still won the fight. Incredibly similar story in Game 19. I looted all of Fatal Fields, left with some okay stuff, I guess. I think Fatal Fields made me better for the sole reason that a lot of my fights I was undergunned, but I still ended up coming on top. Oh yeah, you heard me right. I know I've said in the past that Fatal Fields is for noobs, but dropping there 100 times definitely made me a champion. It's like weight training. You're dropping into a location every single game that's gonna have less chests in it. That means lower tier loot for fighting, which is gonna make fights more difficult. Though in this game I was lucky and did get a rocket launcher, which ended up helping out quite a bit. Using that rocket launcher, I was able to get to the end game with ease. There were 3 people left as I shot at this defaulty boy, but on my approach, I was gunned down. Game 21 was again like a lot of the other ones. I dropped in alone, looted Fatal Fields, and left. Making it to the top 5 or top 3 really isn't that much of a challenge anymore, but once you're there, it's sort of a toss-up. Like all the other ones, Game 22 was pretty lonely. I survived long enough to see Salty Springs, where I boogie-bombed this Calamity hiding in the corner. I don't think he really knew what to do. In this game, we had a northern circle, which always means you're gonna have a lot of fighting on your hands. And sometimes you just can't kill everybody. In Game 23, we had almost the exact same circle, and a bullet in the brain. Game 24, we left Fatal Fields with some working class class loot. I made it to the end, gradually upgrading my loot along the way, but didn't win. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the pumpkin head so much, it's because I bought this skin and haven't won with it yet. And game 25 was no exception. Second place, that one's gonna hurt. But not as bad as second place in game 26. And wouldn't you know, in game 27, I did it again. Second place! That's okay, on this series, we just load right back up. And most of the time, it ends in my death. You gotta remember, a lot of these games I'm dropping in with the intention of creating a good strategy. But in order to make a good strategy, you have to figure out which ones don't work. But if you are looking for a little more practice, you can always go into playground mode. Before game 30, I did just that. The actual game 30 went pretty well. I made it to the final circle in Leaky Lake with one other player. I was out of materials and had to navigate Leaky Lake on foot, which, if you've ever tried to do, is pretty hard. Game 31, my first kill was a scared little default boy hiding in the long barn. Nothing else happened until I made it to Greasy Grove, where I fought this player with an impulse grenade. He didn't expect it, and I got the kill. Pretty soon after that, I saw this other defaulty boy that I tried to kill with my hand cannon. I should have used my scar. He had better aim than I thought. Game 32 wasn't much better. I'm really going for that Toxic Trooper win. I bought this skin months ago, I still haven't won with it. Yeah, Fatal Fields can be pretty tough sometimes, but I'm getting better. But not in game 34 or 35. Game 36, some new controller settings came out that allowed you to map your buttons just a little bit different. So I dropped into Disco Domination with Taurus for a little while to learn my new button layout. We lost, but it's still a cool game mode. Game 37 takes place a couple days after game 36. I used that time to learn my new button layout. This game went like most of the other ones. I was able to slide into the end game pretty easily. The only other guy in the match was built up on top of me, but I knew he had low health and I had a gold P90. I shredded his building and then his body, breaking in my Pumpkinhead skin with a win. However, game 38 didn't go nearly as well. A really good strategy for Fatal Fields, one that almost always gets me into the end game, is to focus on your materials. It's the one advantage Fatal Fields might give you. As the circle gets smaller, being able to build is crucial, and running out of mats is almost always going to end in your death. Game 40, I dropped into the farmhouse. This player didn't get a gun and offered his life to me. I took it. Wow, wouldn't you look at that, I'm in the final circle again. The only other player in the match had to push towards me, but had rockets. I could tell by his footsteps he was coming in close, and I missed my shot, then lost. Hey, game 41, I lost as well. Here's 42. In game 43, my only competition was this defaulty boy. I don't think he knew what was happening, but it got a little crazy outside Leaky Lake, and I was killed by a wick. Game 44 was a very pleasant drop. I dropped into Fatal and no one was there. But the final circle was pretty nasty outside Salty Springs, and I didn't survive. Pretty similar story in game 45. I made it to the end game, but was then sniped in the face. In game 46, I got the new vehicle, the Quad Crasher. There's a pretty reliable spawn of 2 of them just north of Fatal Fields. I was able to use this Quad Crasher to go all the way to Paradise Palms, which was unlooted. I'm not gonna lie, I drove this thing way too long. It's really loud, but yeah, a ton of fun. But like I said, it's pretty loud, so don't use it when the circle gets too small. I wouldn't lie to you when I say that I really do enjoy the Quad Crasher. I love driving this thing around. But in this game, the Amazon guy showed up, so I had to go AFK, and didn't live much longer. Game 48, I was still using the Quad Crasher. It's a great tool if there's a far circle from Fatal Fields. I was doing fantastic, but built up a little too high on this sky bridge, then died. Game 49, Fatal Fields was same old, only had to kill 1 noob, and then that was it. I've been getting a string of really far north circles, but the Quad Crasher helps out tremendously. Still, those northern circles, they ain't nothing to mess with. Game 50, I had a fight with this Skull Trooper, and lost. Game 51, I just wanted to flex this awesome helicopter glider I got. Looks sick, doesn't it? When you buy your own awesome gliders, use my supporter creator code, or end up like this gentleman. In this particular game, Fatal Fields was just a little bit hotter than normal, but that meant I got a pretty good amount of kills. As the circle got smaller, the fighting only increased. I tried, I really did, but I never found any shields from all the previous fights. I was stuck on low health and died. Game 52, I had to gas myself just to buy a few more seconds of precious life. All I had was a grenade launcher, and he had a blue pump. Game 53 was another hot bus into Fatal Fields. How wonderful! As expected, I got 2 kills, then died myself. All these hot buses, no! I limped out of Fatal Fields with trash loot, 4 HP, and 1 kill. Almost. Game 55, I tried to conquer the northern circle with a Quad Crasher. It allowed me to go way more north than I normally do, which is where I'm more comfortable, to be honest. But I was still gunned down in my prime. Game 56, you can probably tell that I'm a little bit addicted to doing tricks with these Quad Crashers. While I tumbled into the oasis, I noticed a player on this rock. I built up quickly to him. I think he was trying to destroy my structure with grenades, but he probably should have just built himself. We can skip to the end a bit here. 3 people left in the final circle. Make that 2. Pretty standard. I got on the right side of the new safe circle, and won the game. I do this all the time. Don't believe me? Let's skip to the end of game 57, final circle, yeah! So this time there were 3 people left. They were a little bit closer to each other. You can see that I'm not actually aiming at either of these players, but I have enough minigun bullets where I can continuously fire. The minigun's a monster, it intimidates your opponents, they'll make some dumb plays, and you will win the game. Game 58, my luck wasn't as good. Same with game 59. I'm gonna be honest, games 60 through 70 aren't that great. For whatever reason, I couldn't seem to get a win in that time frame. So to save your time and my own, I just played them all at once. I skipped those games because in game 71, I perfected my Fatal Fields strategy. From this game on, my average place dropping Fatal Fields was 3rd, even though I did come in 4th place this time. I died in game 71 because I ran out of materials. So in game 72, before I left Fatal Fields, I got to 999 wood. I also got 999 stone as well. I said before, Fatal is absolutely wonderful for getting materials. The extra materials not only allowed me to maintain higher health, but it also allowed me to move around the map a lot easier. I was able to always be in the best position using my building, and because of that, I won. Pretty much from here out, I used that strategy every single time dropping into Fatal Fields. And in game 73, I didn't win, but I got 2nd place, 3rd place in game 74, and again, 2nd place, game 75. Like I said before, the last quarter of these drops, most of my games are in the top 3. And don't worry, a ton of them are wins. Just not this one. I actually had to come top 6 in squads for a challenge and I got it, so woohoo! Apparently game 77 is missing, so I guess I'll take this time to order you to use my creator code. Do it! Game 78, I got some early kills with this quad rocket launcher I found. It's tricky to use, but once you get the hang of it, it's awesome. Again, I went with that heavy material strategy. In the end game this time, I had so many more mats than everyone else in the game. And because of that, I won easily. I talk about the Fatal Fields material strategy like it's the greatest thing to ever happen, but it's not gonna get you the win every time, especially if there's a northern circle. Yeah, just minding my own business. Sniped in the back. In game 80, I heard a guy on a quad crasher. I knew it had to be mine. But just fun. Okay, the fun. Let's skip on over to the end. So the only other guy in this game is on top of this large structure. He built a sky bridge, I took it out. That caused him to fall to his death and lose to a defaulty. But can we make the back-to-back happen? Game 81 was so hot, this one clinger I threw into a random cornfield got a kill. I had to run into the cornfield to get loot, and the cornfield glitch happened to me. But somehow, miraculously, going back into the corn again cured me. I made it to the end with lackluster loot, and while trying to fly away, I was killed. That's okay, because in game 82, we did much better. Let's skip to the end. It was a 1v1 in the final circle with this llama here. I think any other better player would have definitely killed me, but he didn't. Game 83, I won. With Toxic Trooper, and I lived with 1 health. However, my capture card decided to crash, so all I have is this Xbox DVR footage of the end. Still counts. That just means we gotta do it again, so game 84, let's skip to the end one more time. With 8 health, I flew through the air and narrowly killed this llama, but was then soon after also killed myself. Yeah, the other guy ended up winning that one pretty easily. You're welcome. In game 85, I got my favorite kill in all of these 100 drops. I was doing fantastic until right at the end when I was shot from multiple angles and died. In game 86, I had to run outside of the storm to kill this man. And yes, I would end up dying myself, but it felt great. Game 87 can be explained simply. He had rockets. I did not. Game 89, I was doing fantastic. I had tons of materials, awesome loot, and a chug jug. But then I exploded. I just realized I called that game 89. It's game 88. This is game 89. He was on my private property. I had every right to shoot him. Skip to the end, because I have the power. 1v1, final circle. Guy was right under me. I was surprised that rocket did no damage, but with my shotgun, I was able to take him down. For the win. For game 90, as long as I didn't die instantly, I would probably unlock the maxed calamity. Oh, and I exceeded expectations. I won this game with a nice snipe to the face. I didn't really start to like calamity until this moment. Might as well use the skin for the next game. It looks pretty good with that skull trooper back bling. Most of my kills were pretty standard. There wasn't anything too out of the ordinary. The safe circle was right around tilted towers, and I had tons of mobility items. But I got stuck in a tree, fell out, and shattered my pelvis. Game 92 was played in the Alpha tournament. I wore Scoundrel because I play with him better. I don't know. You know what, why not? We'll skip to the end with this one as well. I was alone in the final circle with a John Wick. I did a great job spraying him down with my compact SMG. So when he went in for the final push, he was just 1 bullet away from death. I was going to play another, but when I got back in the lobby, Beyond Halo was waiting for me. It was a slaughter. If I talk about the details too much, this video would probably get demonetized. And in the end, yeah, I died, but I had Beyond there to win the game. Game 94 was dumb. I had so many materials, but instead of building, I pushed in with my sawed-off, then lost. Game 90 95, second place, again. Game 96, I had no idea what this guy was doing. There was no one even in the house he was shooting at. No reason for any of this. The safe circle was about as far north as you can go. I never even made it to the end. In game 97, I did just a little bit better. Third place. Look, I know I've been skipping the beginning to a lot of these games, but they're pretty much all the same in the beginning. Drop in, get some mats, leave. In the final circle, with 3 people left, I was able to build a big intimidating base which pushed the other 2 players against each other. Then, with 1 rocket, I destroyed the structure they were fighting on. From there, they both fell, and I got the win. Game 99 got real messy. You could tell that I wanted to win this game. The only other guy in the match was pretty good. We had some back and forth that was pretty fun. I'm not entirely sure how he managed to dodge that trap, but he was able to, and he killed me. We're almost done. It's time for game 100. Like many of the other games in these 100 drops, I was alone in Fatal Fields, which allowed me to loot all of it. I had a very close encounter with this hollow head by the shipping containers. But look at all this loot! The final circle was closing in on Dusty Divot. These are gonna be some of the nastiest circles in the game. I happened to see a lifeguard around this tree. I missed my first shot like an idiot, the second one was good, and the third one killed her. And with my eyes dazzled by the loot, Dusty Divot got real fatal. Now that is it for the 100 drops, but Fatal Fields has changed a little bit with Fortnite Now normally, Fatal Fields is just a farm, but in the Halloween season, Fortnite has brought new changes to Fatal Fields. I doubt these will be here forever, but they are very interesting, so go check them out while you have the chance. I gotta say, I had pretty low expectations for Fatal Fields when I was making this video, but as I dropped more and more in Fatal Fields, I liked it a lot more. By the end, I was averaging 3rd place while dropping into Fatal Fields, and because Fatal Fields has lower amounts of chests than other locations in Fortnite, dropping there did make me better. Either way, if it's been a while since the last time you dropped into Fatal Fields, I'd give it a shot. It might not be as fatal as you think. If you liked this video and want to see more and want to help me make more just by playing Fortnite, then why not take part in the Epic Games Support a Creator event? That's right, at any Fortnite store, enter my content creator code luke-thenotable, and with every V-Buck purchase, you will directly support me. Seriously though, I do really appreciate any of you that have already used my content creator code, and if you haven't yet, I would appreciate that as well. That's it for the video though. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And as always, my name is Luke the Notable. I want all of you to stay notable, and I will see you in the next video.